Playlisting is a sketchy, really sketchy service, niche, whatever you want to call it, playlisting agencies or companies, because so often you see like guaranteed placement on X or guaranteed number of streams. And that's always a huge red flag to me.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast brought to you by IndiePRO.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome to the Creative Juice podcast. Welcome back. This is episode 318. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy. With me, as always, is Circa. Cirque, what's going on, my friend?
Not a whole lot, man. Just doing the good work.
It's a good day to do the good work. It's a beautiful Tuesday here in Indiepreneur land. I'm excited to be with you today, and I'm really excited to dive into a topic that I get a lot of questions about. When I'm talking with artists and managers and artist teams, this is a question that comes out almost every single time that I'm having a consultation with a team about their music marketing. And so I wanted to bring it to the show today to kind of unpack a bit of a survey of like the music marketing landscape, because there's so much out there that you can do, especially if you've got a lot of opportunity in an artist's business and an artist's career, a lot of fans going on. There's a lot of shiny objects. There's a lot of options out there for where you can put your effort and your attention and your budget. And some of it is more effective than others, at least in our opinion and experience. And it's really driven the way that we run our agency, IndieX. And so I kind of wanted to bring this to the show today to talk about why we do the things we do and why we recommend to artists the strategies and the processes that we do, and why we've kind of put our focus all in one area as opposed to, many different areas. And the question that I usually get is like, so what is it that you guys do at your agency, and why don't you do blank? And blank can be filled in with a lot of different things, but some of the big ones that often come up with me in conversation when I'm talking with artists is like influencer marketing or PR or playlisting. A lot of that kind of stuff sort of comes into question. And so I'd love to talk about that today and unpack it a bit, because I think it'll be helpful for artists who are considering where to spend their time and their budget, especially if they're looking to bring on team members or hire services through vendors or agencies. But also it's really important for artists who are, kind of at the development level, and they're trying to figure out what it is that they need to focus on, even if they're doing it all themselves. And I think that this will be a useful episode for kind of everybody in both of those camps.
Yeah. You listening to this right now probably are far removed from what we deal with as a music marketing agency. But just to give you a little insight, we're pretty much constantly misunderstood by the industry at large, just because there's not really a lot of marketing agencies like us in the music industry. I would say the music industry has a high propensity for grift. Like, let's say that you run a coaching business where you coach people on, psychological factors having to do with like high performance, or they're like CEOs or something, and you're coaching them in that. And that's your business. In that world, there are tons of agencies that will take your money and do almost nothing for you and pass it along as like, this is the service we offer. It's a valuable service, when it's not. A lot of them fall into like the social media marketing category. But in the music industry, it's like, I think the average customer of an agency in the music industry doesn't even know kind of what they want to be doing. And they're just hoping to sort of grow the reach ad infinitum. And so like most agencies in the music industry are there to grow your reach. They're there to expand your impact. So like, how many eyeballs do you get in front of on a yearly basis? How can we make it more? How can we make you more known, your name more known? Almost none of them are about how do we take the eyeballs you already have and get them to actually be frequent customers of you as a business. And that's strictly what we do. That's exclusively what we do. There's not a whole lot of other agencies out there like us. And so when we talk to clients, like, they're usually a little bit perplexed as to like, so what do you guys do? Influencer marketing? Do you do streaming? How are you going to get the streaming up? We're like, no, we're just here to make you money. And they're like, what is that?
Yeah, that's a really adequate summation of many of the conversations that I've had over years and years now. A lot of it, like you said, Cirque, has a lot to do with the types of artists that we work with at the agency. that's kind of developed into the service that it is and the direction that we take artists. And the reason for that, before we kind of get into the weeds here with like the different types of marketing services that are out there that you might be curious about or paying attention to or marketed about. Before we get into that, it has a lot to do with the artists that we work with, which are typically like artists with large fan bases. And what we've come to understand over years of doing this now is those kinds of artists have the biggest area of opportunity for two stages of business growth, which are capturing attention and monetizing attention, because they already have created a lot of attention. They've created a lot of buzz. They've learned how to create great music, great content. They've curated an audience that's been built up over time. They've become very good at that, either through viral moments, an entire career, or anything kind of in between on that spectrum. And so the biggest opportunity for them often is like, I've got this mass of people and I need to take them deeper with me. I need to have calls to action. I need to have offers. I need to generate revenue in a way that is predictable for me. And so that's what we focus a lot of our effort and attention into.
Yeah. And again, like in the music industry, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, the artist is very far removed from the end customer usually. If you are a salesperson in a business, you talk directly to customers. Artists, in terms of like selling, are very far away from that. Like they might interface with customers, quote unquote, by engaging with fans, but none of that is intended to drive a sale. In the music industry, it's like, oh, my manager will take care of that. And the manager is like, oh, the label will take care of that. And the label is like, oh, this agency will take care of that. Or this merch fulfillment, like done for you company will take care of that. So everyone's kind of passing the buck on who's actually supposed to make a buck. And we just take that direct approach of like, we will help you monetize your existing fan base directly. You won't be passing it off to like a million other third parties who are just going to eat away at your revenue. You just pay us one fee and we will do pretty much all of like the direct to fan marketing and sales online. And so, yeah, like it's just a very foreign concept to especially bigger stars in the music industry who are like so far removed from selling that they don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, it's so true, man. And I think you kind of hinted at this as we started diving into the topic a little bit here, but it even comes across in the language that marketing companies use to describe the engagement that they have with artists and their teams. They talk about it in campaigns, right? They talk about it as like, I'm going to run a PR campaign, or I'm going to do a series of influencer marketing campaigns, or this is my playlist pitching campaign that lasts you a month. And I come across this often where I'll get on consultation calls with a manager or an artist and their assistant or something like that, you know, whoever it might be on the team. And they'll be like, okay, well, what is an IndieX campaign? And I get to go into the conversation with more of a holistic concept of being like, well, it's not an IndieX campaign. Like, we're a marketing company that takes a holistic look at what's going on, and we build campaigns that do specific things. It's not one campaign to drive streams and have that end result, or it's not one campaign that gets you 15 influencers posting your content, or one campaign that is trying to get you blog and PR and magazine placements. It's a holistic sort of marketing process. And the tools that we use to do that, or the processes that we build into that, are email marketing and SMS marketing, paid ads on social media, and offers and e-commerce. Those kind of are the three pillars that we tackle in the digital marketing space. And that's kind of where we rest, is like, this is digital marketing. There's a ton of other practices, tactics, tasks that we're doing day to day that kind of support those three pillars, but those are the main things that we do. And it's not just like, what does 1 month of a campaign look like? And it's really interesting that that's kind of the language that gets used in the industry. It kind of points to the short-term nature of so much of that work.
Yeah. You know, the value prop is different. They're used to engaging agencies where they're like, here's our marketing promise. Here's like the range of results you might get working with us. This is what we sort of like say, like, this is a successful campaign. This is what failure looks like. And it's like, it's all campaign based, just like Jack said. Whereas we are like, you pay for us until you literally make less money than it costs to pay for us. Sign up with us and you should generate more money than we cost every month on an ongoing basis. And that ongoing nature of how our agency works also throws people for a loop because it's just not as common in the music industry. Very common in more marketing heavy industries. Very common to have like an ad agency where that's like, we want a positive ROI and we want to be with you for as long as that positive ROI remains, because they want, people are interested in making money in other industries. So yeah, it's just very odd. But say all that to say that like the purpose of this was to just kind of go over those other types of agencies and kind of what we're not as an agency.
Yeah, I hope that this will be helpful too in kind of giving a picture of where all different types of services fit into your goals and where you might be trying to go. So let's just kind of pick these apart. I want to start with influencer marketing. And influencer marketing, in my opinion, in my experience, compared to a lot of the work that we do, like as we've unpacked here, is very ROI driven and works to pull the existing audiences that you've built, which typically when I'm talking with artists, it's large swaths of audiences. But even if you're developing and you're just starting to build an audience, the purpose is to move people deeper. Influencer marketing, on the other hand, typically in music, is built for the purpose of expanding reach, not pulling your existing people in deeper. It's just an expanding reach by buying or paying for the audiences of influencers. It's like getting an influencer to hold up a sign or a billboard and try to get their audience to pay attention to you. It's not often related or tied to a direct end result. Sometimes it's built around single release campaigns, less frequently around tours and things like that, but it's usually around music releases and streaming and trying to get things to go viral. But it is all about expanding reach and not really about deepening relationships and direct ROI.
Yeah. And that's like, the music industry, when it comes to the artist to fan relationship, is a mile wide and an inch deep, right? It's all about surface level interaction and engagement with the largest volume of people as possible. And this argument's been made in different ways, like throughout the history of creative industries, is that like, well, if you just go deeper, right, you don't actually need that many people. And for a lot of people, it's suboptimal to try to reach 1 million, for $1 per, when you could reach, 100 for 1,000 per or whatever, or 1,000 for 1,000 per. Sorry about my math being off. So yeah, most other agencies, and we've come across kind of all of them, all the different types. And so in the music industry, there is that influencer marketing, which is probably the hottest one lately. But previously, there have been like ad agencies, radio promotion, IRPs, independent radio promoters. There have been sync agencies, all different types of agencies. Influencer marketing is particularly pernicious because I find that the best influencer campaigns that I've seen pulled off were a direct one-to-one relationship between that artist's team and that influencer. And there was already kind of a symbiosis there. That's when it works much better, much more naturally. Not to say that influencer marketing campaigns can't work for artists, but they can be very expensive. And if there's not that big of a fit, it's a big leap to take. It's a huge leap.
Yeah, definitely. And another kind of tack on to add to this is, for a lot of the artists that I speak with, they've got such a large fan base already that they've proven that they know how to generate attention, right? Create attention, and they do it with their content and with their music and with the relationships that they already have with their fan base. And so then influencer marketing is kind of then paying a premium for reach that might be unpredictable or potentially, like you said, not even like good fit necessarily, might not have the impact that you wanted to have. Whereas even if we're talking about what we'll call top of funnel growth, reach, eyeballs, impressions, new fans,
First impressions.
yeah, first impressions, new people paying attention to you, even if we're talking about that being a goal that you have, an interesting thing is that you can get into running paid ads for that just as much as you can running paid ads for revenue and ROI. It's not always a dollar benefit exercise, but it is predictable and it is controllable. And so I don't want to get too into the weeds with that because that's not really what we're here to talk about or compare, but there is that corollary in digital marketing that you can go after as well. And truthfully, it's much more controllable, much more affordable, and you have the advantage of it being kind of under your own budget, under your own umbrella of assets tools that you own. It's kind of all yours to play with.
Yeah. Another thing is that, like, if you take the theory of constraints or the law of constraints, say like and Hormozy talks about this all the time, a system will grow up until its point of bottleneck, and then it won't grow any further. And if you think about like an artist reach like that, like you take someone who's already very famous or already very well known or has gone viral or whatever, and chances are that maximizing their total addressable market is not their problem.
100%, dude.
Like that's not it. And really, if they're struggling to multiply that reach further, it's not necessarily because there's still low hanging fruit to be repped. Like there isn't. You've maximized it. Now you're going to pay the cost of every incremental eyeball after that point is going to exponentiate in price. This is going to cost more effort, more money to grow that much further beyond that if you're already like smash success. And so it makes sense to then now take this group of people that you turned on and diamond down into like the most like supportive, the most raging fans that you can possibly make. And that involves deeper levels of interaction with them than you're posting on social, you're doing concerts, you're putting out records. Like it takes more day-to-day interaction. And concerts, they're going to see you live once or twice a year, maybe. They're going to get an album from you once a year. It's really not a whole lot of interaction. And there's so much more low-hanging fruit down there in actually engaging with fans a level deeper. So that's why we focus on it.
We had a client a few years ago. They were going viral at the moment. They brought on an influencer marketing company to run a campaign while they were already going viral. So they were going viral organically. They were also spending a lot of money on ads that we were running for them. And they were like, well, I think doing influencer marketing and they spent about $10,000 on an influencer marketing campaign in the process of this, with hoping that it would, for whatever reason, tilt things even more in the direction of fan base growth. And it kind of all fell on its face. Like it was the most disappointing part of what they were doing during that time. And it really just turned out to be a big waste of money. Now, I don't want to shame the company or the artist or really anybody involved in what happened there, but it was just a misalignment of priority. It was like, you're already going viral. You already have the reach. You're continuing to get it, and you're paying to get it in one channel already. What you should be focused on now is converting as much of that attention further down into your business.
Yeah. If I'm talking to an artist who's not that big already, it's like, yeah, there's potentially reach to be got. And that's why we largely, like, when we're talking to an artist who is very far from maximizing their reach, we'll just say like, it's probably not the right time for you to work with us in a lot of cases, because that's strictly not what we do. And like what we do will be infinitely more powerful when you get there.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, like we kind of take over from there. But yeah, if like, I guess influencer marketing is the one that makes the least sense for me when no, I won't say that.
We'll get to that one.
If an agency is offering to run ads or playlist campaigns for your streaming and you're already huge and you have like millions of monthly listeners, like, yeah, let's get out of here.
We'll get to that one. Yeah, we'll get to that one for sure.
Influencer marketing makes very little sense because chances are, if there's a great if you're already very publicly visible, if there's a very good alignment between you and that influencer, their fans already know about you. It does not help, or it's not exposing you to more people. If you're trying to use that influencer to get distribution to people who already know about you, but maybe haven't gone a level deeper, and then the whole point of the campaign is to go that level deeper, maybe that makes sense. But if it's just to
it's rarely that, though.
Very, almost never. I've never seen it. Basically, like it's a catch-22. Like or not a catch-22. It's just like there's no way in which it would make sense for me, for an artist who's already very large.
From the outside looking in, where I see influencer marketing as like a viable channel for businesses online, zooming out of music and creative industries is like pure e-commerce, right? Where you see a lot of like user-generated content influencer marketing campaigns for toothbrushes and Invisalign and stuff like that. Commodities that people buy on the internet. You see a lot of that. And I'm sure it's effective. It's out there. People use it. Businesses use it. I talk to plenty of e-commerce brands that use it. Great. But like you said, Cirque, so often in music, it's not serving that purpose. It's like purely about reach and eyeballs. And I've never seen a case where it's gone further down the funnel than that. And even if it did, who knows how effective it is? It's not really mega trackable in the same way that so much of like pure direct response digital marketing is, from both the text marketing, email marketing, ads side of things, and e-commerce side of things, where you can really get granular about what's working for you and then improve it. That's what's really cool. And it's something that you don't have to disengage from a service provider and it goes away or it stops altogether.
Yeah. On the flip side, like the very reason why it makes very little sense for a larger artist to use influencer marketing is some of the reasons why it might make sense for a smaller artist to like use it. In a case where a smaller artist has a very proven sound and their only difficulty has been actual impressions, like actually getting people to check out the music and a vote of confidence from someone who's already very popular and is a tastemaker. In that case, there are odd instances, usually direct to influencer, where the team's reaching out to that influencer and asking like what it would cost. That's usually where it lies. But like to say like, oh, I'm going to partner with this influencer, get an outsized impression set with a vote of confidence from a trusted authority. And these people will be highly likely to go at least give it a listen. And I know based on the strength of my product that like once they give it a listen, that's all I need. I'm in the door. So yeah, like if your main problem is just getting a large enough volume of people to just try it, then I would say like influencer marketing makes sense. Maybe, you know, you have to weigh all the options. And that's why influencer marketing is such a powerful tool for a lot of product marketers, is because it's like, I just need someone they trust to tell them to give it a try. There's a refund. There's no risk. Like just try it. And I know you will love it and you will buy more.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. I think you're right. In that stage, it's about weighing the options. I would cast my vote for 3 or 4 other things before that, but that's besides the point. I think you're right. That is where it makes sense. And that looks more like paid collaboration than it does like true hire an influencer marketing agency, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But enough about influencer marketing. I want to pick on the one that you started to get into as kind of the makes the least sense, which is playlisting companies. This is a big one that a lot of folks ask me about when I get on the phone with them, is like, well, okay, what do you guys do about playlisting? And my answer is always nothing. We don't touch that. Playlisting is a sketchy, really sketchy service, niche, whatever you want to call it, playlisting agencies or companies, because so often you see like guaranteed placement on X or guaranteed number of streams. And that's always a huge red flag to me. I talk to plenty of our clients about this because people get curious. Like, we're not do everything. And so like folks that are working with us ask like, hey, what do you think about me doing this alongside what you're doing? And I'm always like, well, if you want to light, $1,500 on fire, potentially, maybe that's a good idea. But so often you see these guarantees out there by playlisting companies, and it's like, man, you know what's going on there, or you should have a hunch of what's going on there. Often the playlists that we're talking about are owned by that company.
100% of the time they are.
Yeah. And then the traffic on those playlists is questionable at best.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we're in an era where sketchy traffic can get your shit shut down on Spotify 100%. Like if you're getting sketchy listens from a sketchy playlist, Spotify in the last year, we've seen multiple instances where they've just said you're shut off. You've got too much fake streaming activity on your profile. It's a very real danger these days. I only know one person, and I know a lot of musicians, and I only know one person who has ever really gotten an impressive result from sustained playlist campaigning. And it was not hiring a playlist promotion company. It was hand-to-hand combat, reaching out to playlist curators, working with them. And pretty much like a year into him doing that, I taught him Facebook ads. And he was like, why am I doing this? I can just run Facebook ads to my own playlist, build up playlists, and I can place myself as much as I want. And that became his method of going from like, I think 200,000 monthly listeners to now like over 1 million. I can't imagine a scenario where I would be like, yes, hire that playlist company. That's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. Playlisting is a really interesting conversation because it comes up so often. I was just chatting with somebody on our Instagram profile, actually, who was like, my biggest bottleneck in my music career right now is like, I don't have the right playlists or I'm not able to get on the right playlist and I don't have the right PR behind me. And I know that that's not the case for her. So it's just a matter of like, redirecting that attention. But man, it's all over the place. If I scroll on Instagram for more than 2 seconds, like I'm getting hit with all sorts of nonsense ads from playlisting companies that are like, pay us $200 and we'll get you guaranteed XYZ. And it's like, oh my gosh, it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's a rough category.
Yeah, definitely one that doesn't make sense, and I would steer clear of if you're considering it. Be very tread very carefully. The third one that we get questions about is PR. And I have a heart for public relations people because I think a lot of people that I know that work in PR are like really good people. What PR is good for, and what I like about PR and what they can do is it's great for building reputation and a sense of social proof, right? Brand authority, name recognition. That's what happens when you get on publications. But what it doesn't do for you, and I think this is really important to underline for artists, is what it doesn't do for you is it doesn't get you more fans. It doesn't capture the attention of those fans really for anything more than a second that they might choose to read the article about your new record or the review of your new record. And it sure as hell doesn't monetize your fans.
Yeah, I would say like PR is kind of like getting home insurance for a home you don't own. It's this layer of enhancement or protection. Like if you get a bunch of exposure, right? Let's say you do an influencer campaign, right? You're a smaller artist. This influencer says, I love this artist. Go listen to their latest track. Everyone goes and listens to it. And now you're getting all this traffic and search volume. When people search you on Google, it's better if they find stuff, right? It's better if they find not only your socials and your streaming, but also like people who aren't you saying nice things about you. That adds this layer of authority to that first impression or that first deep dive into you as an artist. And so it's something that silently kind of boosts everything else you do that you should be doing. And there are tons of people who don't silently boost it with PR and they do fine. And there are tons of people who do just PR, but don't do all the other things and they do terribly, right?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I would love to hear you talk about your experience way back now,
Yeah.
7 years ago, working with Dukes in PR, back before like his album launches and viral videos and crazy profitable funnels that he's built. I think that's a really good example of someone who used PR and really didn't get the traction, even though you guys had what would be considered massive success with PR. Like all the placements on all the best electronic publications at the time.
Yeah, we got a decent streaming result. Wasn't terrible. Not worth the cost. It was back in the days of blog PR when people actually learned about new music they might like from music blogs, which does not really happen anymore. In 2010 through 2012, like it was the golden era of music blogs, and it sort of fell by the wayside over the last like 8 years. But we got on a bunch of music blogs. We paid for the PR campaign. And essentially what that means is that the person we paid wrote up something about the album and sent it off to a bunch of writers that they're in contact with. In some cases, the person sending off that little release will pay or compensate those writers. But a lot of times, like they're not compensated. They're just like, okay, I know you're going to give me good music. I'm going to listen to you, so I don't have to go search for a bunch of new stuff. And yeah, so, but sometimes they are paid. And so a lot of times those blog writers will just copy and paste what the agent wrote and just post that on the blog, right? They're not even trying. It's a very short write up. And that blog might have a built-in audience. In some cases, they don't. In some cases, it's just smoke and mirrors, but they might have a built-in audience who's willing to listen to them about their music recommendations and go find you. What's not going to happen is that you're going to get a direct, measurable, and trackable relationship with tons of new people. It's just not going to happen. In most cases, they'll end up on streaming where you actually can't contact them, or you can't do anything further with them. So you just got to hope and pray that the maximal result of everyone who reads that blog goes to streaming, likes, follows, and playlists you, and then they're just like listening to you. And that's the most you'll ever probably do with them unless they go further and find you on social media where you can actually have this back and forth relationship. So it's just a rough thing to do if you're trying to get a measurable growth in your fan base that like is meaningful over the long term. But it is a good thing to do if you want to make all of your first impressions slightly better, because people will search you. And if there's nothing there, it's not as good as if there was something there. And that's it.
For sure. Yeah. And what I want to add to that is just that for a lot of artists that might be listening to this or their team members, if you've got a large fan base, you're probably checking the boxes of PR anyway, just by nature of who you are and how big your fan base is. I would venture to guess. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but you've probably got articles written up about you when you release stuff. Great. Don't pay for more of it. You don't need to. Don't put your resources there. It doesn't make sense to do it. And for artists that aren't in that position because you're still developing an audience, that's probably not the first and best place to put your resources. I'll say that because a lot of what have been talking about has been about expanding reach, kind of in all of these categories, expanding reach and the varying degrees of efficiency of doing that versus taking the reach that you already have and the attention that you already have and capturing it and going towards something that's really driving an actual business result.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope that this was helpful because I feel like, again, it's a question that I get so often and I've gotten for so many years now, and we've never talked about it in this light on the show before. So I was pretty excited to bring it today and just be like, hey, let's lay out where you should be paying attention and where you should be focusing your efforts, regardless of what camp you fall into, audience size wise, and whether you're looking to build a team or hire or anything like that. Hopefully this gives you some sort of roadmap to the music marketing confusing landscape of all the different types of services that are out there. I know we covered 3. There's probably a billion more, but these are kind of the big 3 that often get brought up with me. So I hope that this was helpful in giving you guys a bit of a roadmap into some of the things that we do, why we focus on those areas so that you can. And if you're in a position where you think you want to bring on a team to handle the digital marketing and bring you an ROI because you've got a big audience, we'd love to hear from you. IndieX would love to have you and be on your team. And if you're not in that position, then I hope you take sort of these philosophies and apply them to exactly where you're at so that you can grow.
Hell yeah.
We'll catch you next time, Indies. Peace.